Hello.
50 Shades of Green, a podcast about all the ways
that 50 Shades of Green.
A podcast about all the ways that cannabis helps with life, mental health, and more.
Hello, welcome back to 50 Shades of Green.
Hi.
Bum, 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 bum.
Ba-da-bum.
We have another interview coming right at you live from Florida, Florida, where we are going to talk with, what's his name? Dan from the Weed channel.
And he is a pro chef and foodie. He's a cannabis gourmet chef, and we have a lot of really great questions.
Cannabis gourmet chef.
That
sounds
amazing.
Yes, so my name is Daniel. I work as a curator for Fluent at one of their dispensaries in Miami. I'm also working with them as a food stylist, essentially, helping them develop some recipes on the blog. Developing the recipes, taking the picture, and using that as a tool to not only educate people online, but educate people in store on how to make your own edibles, make your own tasty, easy edibles, really.
Nice.
I think that's, yeah.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. I am very much also into edibles. And when the pandemic started last year, I had actually just picked up some like RSO and distillate. And I was like, what am I going to do with these? The dispensaries are like shutting down for a week. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Just shoot it in a cookie dough. Like, it's fine. Make a bunch of cookies. But it is a very like scary thing for me to think about, like dosing, and do I need to add it to butter? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And so then I started thinking more, I'm sure other people are like thinking this too. I'm not the only one who's questioning how in the hell do I do this dose, or how do I even decarb a leaf, or what is this? And that is when I saw you, because I do follow Fluent. I have done some work for Fluent, and we've actually had the Jane West on our podcast as well. She has those pre-filled pipes. I'm sure you know about her. And so then
absolutely.
Yeah,
I absolutely adore her product, honestly.
Same. So then when I started seeing all of these different Instagrams, and I'm like, wait, where are all these pictures coming from? Like, these pictures are amazing. For one, I'm like big into photography. Then you're adding the edible element to it, and I'm like, who is this? Like, what is this? So then I kind of did a little stalking. Hi, here you are now. I will fully admit that I hunted you down and was like, who is this person? This is like really great food styling and just looks really amazing. I like guacamole. And so I was like, hey. And also, has anyone watched the Bong Appetit?
On Netflix?
Yeah.
They cook with cannabis.
100%. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a fan of any one of those cooking shows that give you kind of a mystery basket and allow you to improvise on the spot, and figure out exactly what you're going to do. Just to give you a little background as to where I'm coming from, I'm actually a graduate from the Culinary Institute of America. I'm a classically trained chef. I worked in a number of restaurants, and I've been in the industry, in the hospitality industry, for many years. And so, the whole thing with the Food Network, the fact that they took that concept and adapted it into cannabis is, I think, stellar. Very original, and great to put people who are stoned in a pinch. Also, that's also really
Yeah.
But I'm flattered you hunted me down. This has honestly been I think a topic that I've been mulling or working on really for a few years now. Even when I was in school, it wasn't ever something that they were 100% allowed to talk about, just because cannabis is still federally regulated. It's still an illegal substance nationally. And it was always something that amongst cooks, I would always express this interest of, oh, because most people in the industry smoke pot. Most people smoke cannabis
I would
as a way
say
to unwind.
most chefs. Yeah, all chefs,
100
they're high when they're making your food.
100%. I would say most of them are. A lot of them aren't. They go for other substances.
Other
but
ones, yeah.
there's no shortage of vices in that industry. But that being said, cannabis is definitely, I think, the one of the gentler ones and one of the more therapeutic medicinal ones. And it was always something that everyone was like would gravitate to at the topic, like, oh, it would be very cool to work with edibles. It would be very cool to see this concept brought into a fine dining concept, or would be very cool to see these edibles brought into what's like a foodie style, right? Or like like an Instagram style video concept, or a lot of that is being developed now. But even 4 or 5 years ago when I was in school, it was not something. It was just kind of popping up. So this is something that definitely I'm very passionate about, and the more I learn, the more I dive into it. There's so much, man. There's so much to play around with, to research, to learn about. It's a lot. Okay, so using cannabis, I would say since I was 18, probably. I started out, around that, I think 17, 18. There was a trip I did to Europe, and that's where I was introduced to cannabis, and
Right in Europe.
it was a
Wow.
great way to start off.
That is.
Edibles has been very recent. I would say maybe in the last 5 to 6 years. It was always something that I was very wary about, and it's understandable. I think um, there's one thing that connects most cannabis users, and it's having a bad trip with an edible, because you didn't know the dosage, because you didn't know how strong, right? It was sold to
Or
you
it
as
didn't
something
work.
that,
Yeah.
or it didn't work, right? It was either on one side of the spectrum or the other. And there's there's very little that you can hang on to as far as like, oh, why was that experience like that? And it wasn't any different for me. I had made homemade edibles and eaten them, and had really crappy trips. Had tried edibles from someone else that gave me a really pleasant trip and actually worked out. But it wasn't until I think I started working in the dispensary that I really started honing in on the concept of the dosage, right? Like actually looking at what dosage was right for me, and then understanding how much of how much of the cannabis your body actually absorbs, right? And all the determining factors that go into that, which I am only beginning to scratch the surface of. I'm reading some places that it's something like, I think, 4 to 10% that you actually end up absorbing. But then it depends on how sensitive you are, right? How much you end up eating. It's crazy. And then you start getting into edibles like RSO, which is a true full spectrum product. And then you get into the entourage effect, right? You're not just talking about the effect of the THC or the CBD.
Yeah.
You have to look at everything combined, and it gets bonkers really quick.
It gets awesome. Really awesome. Those are my favorite types of edibles. I know that we have certain regulations where we have to have the distillate edibles, but my favorite types of edibles are the ones made that are the full spectrum. You are getting every component from the plant, because I want every component of the plant. I want all of those different parts. So
yeah.
Yes, I'm fine. I like my edibles that we have now, but I do make my own homemade edibles with my already vaped weed and such like that. So I do also use RSO, and I'm not really great at dosing. I just try to be mindful and remember, that I only need about 40 milligrams to feel good. And then that's just what I keep in mind.
See, and I can't figure out my dosage to save my life for edibles. It's such an up and down, because like chocolates and cookies absorb to me like way faster. Like I feel them a lot quicker. Like, and I've tried the gummies and I don't feel anything from those. Like I'll take like 3 or 4 gummies and still.
But do you eat?
I mean, I don't have the best like eating schedule per se. I don't always eat.
I know. That's why I said it.
I know.
I always tell her you need to eat something with your edibles. It doesn't matter what type, whatever you're eating, whatever type of THC form you're eating, you need to eat something that's going to
100%.
fill your belly that it can stick to be able to digest.
100%. Any kind of fat that you want to eat, you know, anything that's since these cannabinoids are lipophilic, right? They love to bind to fat. That's essentially what you want, and that increases the absorption rate ideally, right? But it also there's also people who metabolize THC differently, and I'm learning about this as well. People
I
who
told her
metabolize
that
it
too
differently.
today.
Yeah, and this is something that I'm just learning, and it makes sense to me, right? Why some people will say, "Oh, edibles don't hit me at all," and then you have someone like me, for example. I've got it down to maybe like 5 milligrams at this point. 5 milligrams feels great to me. 10 milligrams will put me to sleep. I'm very sensitive, very lightweight to this stuff. And in fact, I prefer something like RSO or something like a blended product because it doesn't just feel like a traditional high. It feels a little more therapeutic. I think circling back a little to what you were mentioning, right? We're heading in that direction of legalizing this eventually, right? If we can get this legalized and we can get the regulations for quality control written, right, and we can get this developed in this industry, I think that could go a long way in educating people as to how not only to dose it properly, but also, okay, if I'm going to make them at home, you know, what exactly should I be accounting for? What should I be looking for? What cannabinoids maybe work best for me, right? Whether it's the traditional THC CBD, or if you break into CBN and THCO, THCP, or THCA. If you start going into the different versions of CBD as well, it's really cool, man.
My favorite edibles are ratio edibles with a little bit of THC, a little bit of CBD, and a little bit of CBN. Those are the best for bedtime.
All of it at once?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all of it at once.
Like all of that's in one gummy?
Yes. That is like literally the best combination for a sleepy
For
time.
bedtime?
Yeah.
I need those.
100%.
For daytime, I would recommend a little bit of CBD and a little bit of THC, but only like 5 and 5, like little half ratios. And then that helps me feel like relaxed, but I don't. So I like edibles because I don't feel that spike. Like when you're smoking, you feel that spike and then you feel that come down.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I just want to feel even. And that's why I like doing a little bit, like microdosing a little bit of edibles. And microdosing for me is about 20 milligrams. And it's about half of what I would normally use. But like he said, everyone will metabolize it differently.
Yeah.
So you may need more milligrams, you may need less, or you may need more CBD to help carry that THC.
Yeah.
Or food.
Or food.
Eat.
Food is definitely the best option, you know?
Like just eat.
Put something in your stomach and then take them. Okay.
That's what I do.
I'm sure that's what
a
most
challenge
people
for me, man.
I'm
Let
sorry.
me tell you, for me, it's the opposite. I tend to, I like to say that I live in a perpetual state of hunger. I always want to eat. So like, there's always something in my stomach. I don't think I have that issue, but
and my pretzels right here.
I have my
there you go. And you mentioned also the ABV, the already been vaped. I actually like to keep a little jar of that. Pretty much, at this point, I think resorted to just vaping the flower because I get the best effect. I get the best bang for my buck.
Yeah.
The best flavor, the most, duration of it also.
Yeah, dryer vaporizers are really nice. I have a Da Vinci and we've used Da Vinci for like years and years. So I'm actually a part of their affiliate program now because they're like, oh wow, you post about us a lot, you must like us. And I was like, yeah girl, I do. Let me get some free stuff and I'll keep talking about it. And yeah, I do the same thing as you. I have my boyfriend also has a little jar, so we both have our own Da Vinci's. And then whenever we're done, we just put it in there. It's airtight and it goes right on. And
And then you use that for edibles?
Yes, because it's already decarbed.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So what?
You could do that.
So you don't actually, you end up not vaporizing all of the cannabinoids present. Yeah. You end up vaporizing most of the terpenes, but because the cannabinoids are much bigger molecules, a lot of times you're left with a lot in the flower, even if it's been vaped. So as long as you don't get it to the point where you burn it, you're always going to have something in there. You could literally just make an oil or a butter off of that
Yeah, we do
and then make
better.
some kick-ass edibles.
It's literally like a 2-for-1 then. Like,
It really is.
you can
I
smoke
say,
and then you're like,
yeah.
oh, and edibles.
I say it's the best way to preserve and get the most, just like he said, it's the most bang for your buck. Like you really will get the most out of your flower. Vaping it non-combustible is going to also feel better, and you know, it'll be nicer on your lungs. And then I don't know, I agree with him. Like, yeah, just vape it, store it, and then you can do concentrates like that too in the Da Vinci.
You can actually. You can do that with a lot of different. I use a Dynavep.
Oh, okay.
I like having something that doesn't have that battery. I can just kind of heat it up. I have a little torch basically that I carry with me, but um, I have a little insert for it where I can put the concentrates and I can vape. You know, I can add something from a syringe, or even if it's like rosin or crumble, any one of those, I can just smoke it directly, and it's fantastic. I really am a fan of it because of how much you can stretch your weed with it, and then obviously the multi-purpose factor, right? You can end up using that to cook, which is fantastic.
So would that be like your reclaim?
It's not.
Well, how would you do it with the concentrate? Like, how would you?
No, you can use concentrate with drier vaporizers.
I thought you were talking about using like the reclaim from
no,
the
there won't be any
concentrate. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, why?
No, I'm talking about you can use.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
That's
okay.
really in those moments where you have nothing left and you really want to smoke something before you re-up, and you're like, all right, let's dig into the ABV.
I've never done that.
Oh yeah, we have. We've definitely smoked it too. It's not. I mean, it doesn't like hit the nicest, but it, you know, it is what it
gets
is.
the job done.
Yeah,
it gets the job done.
Jeez.
Sometimes
so how
you just
long
need
have
that.
you? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
How long have you been doing what you do? You said you're a curator and
For
also
Fluent.
You're with Fluent.
Yeah, so I've been working as a curator for them. I want to say a year and a half, maybe a little over a year and a half now. The guacamole was actually really cool. The most recent one.
It looked amazing.
It looked really good.
It looked so good. I'm hungry thinking about it.
I was like, chips, please.
It was dangerous for me because I made it to where, you know, I set the dosage for the recipe on the website, right? And we also have to comply with certain parameters as far as like what we can recommend. But if I'm at home and I can make them however I want, I'll, you know, play around with them.
And can you tell us a little bit how you make your edibles at home? Do you use distillate products, or do you use the flour and you decarb it? And
if I'm doing them for the blog, I tend to stick to distillates and concentrates, whether it's in tincture form or in just the concentrate form, right? The distillate form. I like to stick to those just because they're much easier to dose, and I can actually tailor the recipe's dosage, right, using the product. And if ultimately I'm working with Fluent on this, so we're also using their products. I want to make sure that people who are seeing this, they can actually dose it accordingly. But if I'm at home, I much rather make it with whole flour. I like using my slow cooker. And whether it's coconut oil or canola oil or olive oil, I would say those are my top three. I think I made a sesame oil once, like a low temp sesame oil for a ramen, and that was really fun, just like a finishing. But olive oil, you know, any one of those, I'll play around. I'll decarb the flour. I'll go through the whole process, and then at the end, I'll be left with this, you know, slow cooked. I'll probably leave it in there for like 8 to 10 hours, and it'll just be a ridiculously tasty and aromatic.
Literally. That sounds amazing. I think I'm getting like a contact edible high just like thinking about it. It sounds so good. But I really got into edibles when they first started. Well, I used to use RSO, and I used to just shoot it into a little Pop-Tart, get a little bit, and then get on about my day. And it really would be like so hit or miss. I'm like, okay, wow, I'm really way too high right now. Shit, what the hell did I do? Or I'm like, damn it, do I feel anything? Like, what is happening? What? I'm still cranky. This isn't working. Fuck this.
Take more.
Now I need to take more. Now I need to go hit the bong. Now I need to do this. Like, fucking, I'm annoyed. Then when the edibles came out, everything is already like perfectly dosed, perfectly packaged. Here's 10 milligrams, here's 5 milligrams, here's 2.5 milligrams. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I finally realized like what my actual edible limit is and what my tolerance is and what I can and can't handle. And then I started incorporating like the CBD and CBN into the THC. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually very relaxing. Like, I don't even feel, really blitzed out of my mind, but I still feel very relaxed. And then I really developed like kind of a regimen, I would say, where I know how much I need to use during the daytime. I know how much I need to use to go to sleep. I know how much I need to use if I'm out of town and can't like smoke anything too. It really, really made a freaking difference when it was like
pinpointed
really
down.
like broken down for me, because I can look up all the videos in the world and I can look up all of the formulations and the bullshit math and this and that that you have to do and get a calculator. I can do all that, but then when it comes down to like making the product and like dosing it out properly, it's so I can't do it. And so when I see whole ass chefs that are like, yeah, here you go, here's a gourmet one course, that's completely edible with THC. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's definitely the challenge, the challenge. And if you're working with the raw product, if you're doing this from scratch with the flower, it's very challenging to try and find the accurate dose, because you know even if you have the lab results and you have the numbers in front of you as far as like what the COA is selling you, right, as far as THC, CBD, CBN, everything that's present there, that COA is only a small sample of the plant. You don't actually know 100% that what you're getting is going to contain that, right? So for you to dose it, you're making the assumption that that particular batch has those numbers, and that you're going then with those numbers. You can do the math, right, and put the work into it, but it's still challenging. This is also where like distillates and tinctures take the guesswork out, and it's just stupid easy.
Are all
But I agree with you. That whole process you just described has essentially been my process as well. It's a lot of researching just yourself, just trying stuff, getting stoned, and waiting to see what happens.
Hoping for the best, expecting the worst.
Are all tinctures able to be added to like foods and such?
Product is very cool, and it's perfect to add onto something at the end, just like
when the olive oil, when the olive oil came out, everyone lost their shit. Like, we were all so excited. This was the first edible thing that we had, and we were like, shit, it's olive oil. Like, we can just cook with it. We can literally put it on whatever and cook with it. And that was awesome.
I wonder how many people there use that as like the base to start frying, and then they like killed it all.
A bunch of my friends, like,
instead of butter, let's use this, and then it's like everything burnt out of it.
No, I didn't cook with it. I put it on the avocado.
I'm saying I bet a lot of people though, probably when this first started, probably were like, oh, let's use this to lube my pan up.
I don't think people.
I hope not. But like, you have to think there'd probably be someone.
Yes, you are.
There's got to be someone.
I agree with you. I think it's very likely that a lot of people were, getting home and thinking, oh, now I can cook with my food because someone mentioned it. But then it's like, if you don't have the full instructions, you start making assumptions and you go, oh, I'm just going to toss it in the pan, see what happens. And then they don't feel anything. And then it's a whole, like, what happened? Maybe I don't feel edibles. So many. We actually started launching. We started by launching only a handful of them, but now we have like sweet and sour versions of the same one. So we have a bunch of different flavors.
We need gushers in Florida. We need like the gummies that you can eat that have the sour stuff in them.
You keep saying that. No one else wants that but you.
The 90s.
I would totally sign up to have a gusher.
You have a sour insert,
and then sour. Like, you want a warhead? I don't.
No.
I could even see this being like the center is infused, and as soon as you pop that, you get the dosage, and it's just like
a whole. It's not sour. Okay. Some of the sour ones, I can't.
It's too tart.
You can't eat it. Like, your face literally like.
Well, we'll do the non-sour for you then.
That's why I like theirs so much, because others, True Leave was coating theirs in the sour thing. And
Oh,
I'm
really?
like, oh my gosh, I can't eat these. Like I could only eat like 2 at a time. And like Fluent had these amazing, they're like,
were they softer than
they were
True
so,
Leaves?
they were like velvety. Like they were like velvet gel. Anyways, they're
Tell
the
me
best.
about it.
You should get them. I highly recommend. Everyone I tell, I'm stuttering. Everyone I talk about edibles, I say Fluent number one.
I will get
Number
the gummies.
one.
I will get the gummies, Diane.
They really.
Agreed.
The next time I go.
I don't know about the sour.
No, they are.
You could
They
get
really
the
are
sour
awesome.
stuff that you want, though.
I'm a sucker.
Literally.
I wish we had better like edible options here.
Yeah,
I really
me
do.
too. I mean, we do have Jolly Rancher type deals at Satara. They have like hard candies.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
They have watermelon, lemon, and orange, and their full flavor ratio, and then 5-to-1 ratio.
What if I melted those down and then put regular nerds on them, and then made my own nerds rope? That would work, right? Right? Technically.
You could try it.
Technically.
You have to try it. You have to experiment.
I'm going to.
So
you have to keep
it would be
on hand.
YOLO. No.
yes, they do.
No, probably not.
Someone was asking me that the other day of if they could melt down our gummies and make like a big gummy or make something else with it, and I was like, you're welcome to try, because I never have.
Melting them down.
I was just getting ready to say, like, honestly, kids, I have 2 kids and they have literally gotten into anything and everything. I had Poison Control's phone number memorized at one point, and not at all ever because of THC. It was because they were like eating my birth control pills, trying to drink bleach, trying to eat mascara, eating the permanent markers. Okay, THC wasn't even involved. So it doesn't matter. It does not matter what the fuck you make. If a kid wants to eat it, it's going to fucking eat it. It doesn't even care if it is supposed to be edible or not.
You've been through it.
Yes, I have. Parenthood is literally like war trenches.
Yeah, they really don't. They don't give a crap, man. They want it. They'll go for it.
Yeah, kids are savages.
They really will. They fucking eat dirt for fun. So it doesn't matter if it looks like a gummy, a gel, if it's colored, if it's not colored, if it has hard candy, if it's soft candy, if it has fruits or nuts in it, like it doesn't matter. Kids is gonna fucking want to eat it, even whatever. Anyways, so that's my theory on keeping the cannabis away from the kids. Like, good luck. Like, they're just gonna fucking eat everything. You just have to keep it away from them. You know?
Keep them as hidden as you can. That, or I mean, I don't know what your take is on for what I've found, at least, and for people who bring their kids into the dispensary, it's a huge factor of it is educating them as to what exactly this is, right? And not necessarily hiding it from them, or not necessarily like mystifying that this is medicine, you can't touch it, but more so, listen, this is a medicine, this is what it is, this is what it does. Like, actually educating kids and giving them that respect of treating them, like they will understand what you're saying to some degree.
I have
your opinion, because it seems to me like a lot of kids might actually, if you educate them on that, then they'll, on their own, they might be like, okay, well, that's their medicine and I don't really need that, and eventually I'll get to try something, but I don't really need to worry about that right now.
We've even had an episode literally.
I don't have kids, so it's a biased opinion.
Yeah, we've had an episode with her kids on, and it was talking with your kids about cannabis. So
my kids, my oldest, she's actually 14. She already has had friends that are experimenting. So we had that talk, like 3 years ago when I got my med card. I told her all about it, and actually she was in 5th grade. So 5th grade is when I start talking to them realistically about what cannabis is, but I've never really like hid it from them. I would hide drinking from them more than I would really hide cannabis use, because drinking, I don't want it to be like a normalized thing.
Yeah.
With cannabis usage though, I do want to normalize it because I replaced my Zoloft with it. I mean, I'm not replacing my Zoloft with my Merlot.
Right.
So yeah, we talked about it, and I was very open and honest, and yes, we've had them on our podcast, because they are older, and like if they can see it and hear it and talk about it at school, parents should definitely be talking to them about it at home. And that's my philosophy on it.
Okay. So
Like they're a
to
newbie, they don't know
start
anything, just starting out.
starting out, I would start them out maybe with the drops, with a tincture. And I would start them off by saying, take a small amount of oil, add whatever dose you're going to add, and then mix that into your food, right? And try to try to get an idea of what exactly they're trying to make. If it's something like a single dish, right? If they're sitting down to eat that single dish and they can make it and eat that dose, I think that's a great way to start and get them to, as safely as possible, get a controlled dose, ingest it, get a feel for it, really listen to their body. If they've gone past the point where they're now making a batch of things, I would definitely point them in the direction of a syringe, RSO, distillates, anything that's highly concentrated, but they can do a little bit of math and work out, the batch, right? And so if they're making brownies and they have 500 milligrams of distillate, right, and I can help them out. How many brownies you want to make, what dose you want to stick with. If it's 10, you're gonna make 50 brownies. Are you okay with that? If you're going for 40 milligrams, like you are, for example, or if you round it up to 50 milligrams, you're gonna have 10 edibles, right? So also teaching them how to work out that math and how to look at making a batch of edibles, exactly what the dosage is going to be for each one. Um, and then if you're really adventurous, at that point, I'll definitely point you in the direction of making your own butter or your own oil with the flour, so that you get that experience, right? There's always a bit of disconnect, I find, with people and their food in general, right? A lot of people, they see what's in front of them, but they don't think of the process that goes into it. They just want the final product. So it's very cool to teach someone to make edibles with the flour or with the raw product, or even with a concentrate. A lot of people want to make stuff with rosin or something, some kind of solventless extract. Um, so I think if they are at that point where they want to learn how to make something from scratch and create that bridge, of understanding what the process is, great. I'll point them in that direction. But honestly, tinctures and syringes are the best thing out there. The companies that put in the work to um, create these products that are clean and are easily dosable. So I would definitely point them in that direction.
Cool.
Do you recommend any of those, like magic butter or the Ardent FX things?
Levo.
There's the Levo
Yes.
oil.
So I've used, I think, the butter effects is the only one that uh, I've gotten my hands on. I don't know about the other one. Um, I grew up with learning how to make these in a crock pot, and so that's another thing. Teaching people, oh, you have the crock pot. This is what you can do. Um,
My
but
way
I'm,
is
I'm a
the double
fan.
boiler and cheesecloth.
And you
That's
strain
how
it.
I've always
Yeah.
done it. Yeah. But everyone
Great.
always has their own little
Their
trick.
different way
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sorry to
yeah,
cut
yeah.
you
I
off.
think no, that's okay. It's okay. What I was really gonna say is I'm a fan of anything that simplifies the process. Anything that makes it simpler for the user to get that the desired product. I'm a fan of that, through and through.
The Levos are
So
great. I've seen those. You just literally put your flour in and decards it for you.
Does it?
And then you put whatever fat soluble you want. You can use any type of oil or butter or whatever, and then it comes out. And
Yeah, the Pot Smoking Moms, they have one.
yeah, they're pretty cool.
I do have another question actually having to do with making it like super fast. One person that I follow on Instagram, she was like, everyone wants to make easy edibles. Here you go. And she literally had like a little saucepan, maybe like 2 cups of olive oil, and she put a whole gram of shatter and just did it on a low heat and then stirred it around. And then that was it.
And what?
She took it off and then poured it into a container. And she said that was like, that was her olive oil that she was going to cook edibles with. She had 2 cups.
Okay.
Is that right or wrong?
Did she warm it up at least at all?
Yeah, it was like hot. It was on a low heat that she was heating up the olive oil, and then she put her shatter in, and she like melted her, like the shatter dissolved and everything, and then she kept stirring, and then she only did it for maybe like 5-10 minutes at this low like heat, and she's like just stirring her olive oil. I've never fucking done it because I didn't believe her.
No, that's perfect, because that's almost the equivalent of taking one of those distillate syringes and just dropping it into some fat. It really is the same concept, and because all these cannabinoids do bind to fat, as long as you have an oil and dissolve it, it's perfect. Except not everyone does that, right? A lot of people are looking for the crumble and shatter products to smoke them, to dab them. So it also has to do with how, what kind of product and what kind of usage you're looking to get out of it.
Would the shatter be stronger? No,
I think
it would probably be about this. It would be as strong as any other concentrate. As I understand it, shatter does have some residual cannabinoids from the process. It's not just the THC. So it would definitely be strong. I have no doubt that it would definitely be strong. I've had some live resin and rosin gummies in the past as well, which absolutely kicked my ass. So I don't see why something with shatter or crumble would be any different.
Is there a benefit to making edibles like low and slow, like in the crock pot, compared to maybe like a magic butter, or is that like the same thing?
It's basically the same thing. You have to do
it's essentially the same thing, yeah. It's really the same thing.
Okay.
But what?
Well, do you get better, like, instead of doing it like how you were describing, like with the shatter? Do you think you get
doing it at a low temp?
Right. Do you think you get better effects though from doing like with a concentrate or with the flower?
In my opinion, I would rather it be from the flower because I want the full spectrum.
Right.
So that would be dependent on the person and how the person metabolizes it. In my opinion, again, I'm not like an expert or anything. I've just used a lot of edibles and researched a lot and talked with a lot of people about them. What do you think?
No, I think I think what you're saying is bang on. I agree with that very much. I also think that, I haven't really done a full analysis into the magic butter product itself, so I don't know what kind of, if it has any kind of filtration system, if it has anything that, anything extra that a slow cooker doesn't have, so it's possible that product maybe gives you something that's a little cleaner, but in terms of how the process goes, it's really the same thing. And I think that the benefit of something that's low and slow, once you've decarbed it, because you do need to get it to a certain temperature to activate the cannabinoids, but to do it low and slow, you're more than likely to get the more volatile compounds that are present in the plant, right? Something that would evaporate if you were to do it at a high temperature. Okay. That is something that I've always found. Like another method that I've used is through like a sous-vide method, right? So keeping it in a jar, submerging it in water, and using a machine to circulate the water at a specific temperature for a long time. That's one that I'm a huge fan of, because at the end you're left with a relatively clean product that's I've found to be a little more aromatic than when you just put it into a crock pot or something else.
I've seen a lot of videos of professional chefs doing that, actually. How he just explained it. Yeah, that's like the best tasting way to do it. Whatever. Yeah, how he explained it.
Yeah.
That's a very common thing. To the flavor of it. Not everyone's into that flavor. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
but I use flour products. So it's always been really funny to me because I love hitting the bong and, I'm totally fine with that. But once it's heated up, it tastes different. And so I've always had a problem with homemade edibles that are just made by like the method that I talk about where you double boil, strain, and yeah, they taste like warmed up milk.
See, I always say like earthy, like I have an earthy taste.
No, they don't have an earthy taste. Not that I'm registering.
Warmed up milk.
Yes, it's very, very specific.
That is very specific.
Very subjective at the end of the day,
It is, and everyone's body will react differently. Yeah. And so I guess that I'm happy that there's all these different ways that you can create it, because I mean, like, I would never be able to enjoy edibles, and I love how edibles like make you feel, and they're so much more relaxing in my opinion.
And you don't have to mess up your lungs either.
Yeah, they are good for that too. Well, can you tell us like where our listeners can follow you if they want to get some recipes from you?
Yes. So the main Instagram account is at Munchie Noob. Should I spell it out?
Yes, please.
You guys can listen on the. So it's at Munchie Noob. It's going to be MUNCHIENEWB. That's going to be the food content account. You can also go onto the Fluent Cannabis recipe blog. If you go through their website, they do have a blog section, and all of the recipes are always going to be listed on the recipe section. That's about it for now.
Awesome. Well, definitely. Do you have any other questions?
Have you thought about doing like a YouTube or like some type of channel to like you cooking like some of these recipes or showing people how to cook these recipes?
I have, yeah. So I think gravitated more towards Instagram and potentially doing like a live stream or doing just like cooking sessions through Instagram. I did create a YouTube channel for the Munchie Noob brand name, but I haven't really developed it too much. So right now I'm just kind of focusing on building a little bit of a recipe blog, and I think moving into doing some cooking demos. At that point, I think I'll start upping the production and maybe recording some more videos and doing some more content, but it's coming.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much. I love talking about edibles, and she doesn't usually like edibles. So I've been so happy to have someone actually who really likes eating the cannabis plant. Yeah. And maybe Jackie will
I appreciate
I'll come around. I'll get on the edibles.
Yeah, I think just keep trying them, keep slowly like doing your own research and development. Try small amounts, try big amounts, just kind of listen to your body, but you'll get there. You'll hone in on it eventually. And
we'll just have to get her to eat a whole chocolate bar.
And wait for it.
Yeah, just you have to get a timer.
How long is it gonna take for her to be zonked?